Hi guys, I'm Shmi, and earlier in this month, in fact in just a 5-day window, I had the opportunity to experience in person all 3 of the latest heavyweight hybrid hypercars. So we've got the Ferrari LaFerrari, then we've got the McLaren P1, and also the Porsche 918 Spider. Now, as much as I would love these 3 cars to go and do a drag race down a long runway, or go and hit some competitive laps at the Nürburgring so they can all post up some times, unfortunately I don't think either of those are about to happen. What I can do though is I can offer you some impressions and show you some videos of my experiences with each one. So what I'm going to do is break this down into a couple of different categories, talk about the cars, show you videos I shot this month and some stuff I had shot before. So I'm going to kick off with the looks of the car, because I think that's quite a big factor. Firstly, the LaFerrari. So when the LaFerrari launched, to me at first I felt like it was almost 2 different cars. The very pointed, aggressive end at the front didn't quite match up with the natural design at the rear. The more I've seen it, the more I've grown to it, and now I absolutely love that thing. It is so low. The seats are bolted to the floor, so you have an incredibly low roofline. You have the door mirrors that stick out a long way from the side, and the rear spoiler that comes out from the back, and it's a very nice package. The McLaren P1, well, when it was launched as a concept car, they said that was 95% of the final product, and that did turn out to be the case. It is incredibly futuristic looking in design, very small, low rear end, massive rear wing, and all sorts of new design elements we haven't seen before, making it a very nice package. The Porsche 918 is a slightly confusing one. I think it's almost the more subtle hypercar, because to the untrained eye, a lot of people I think just think it might be a slightly jazzed up Boxster, dare I say it. But when you get to see the car and look at it in a lot more detail, and you see all the things that have gone into it, the rear wing up, the exhaust tips on the rear deck, the very low front end, the whole car comes together and it is a really, really nice package. Given that all 3 of these cars have hybrid powertrains, it's interesting to see the different approaches the 3 companies have taken and how they've made it happen. And let's face it, noise is a very important aspect of a hypercar. So first up, the LaFerrari has a 6.3 litre naturally aspirated V12. Also has 161 horsepower from the electric motors, but it sounds incredible. McLaren P1 has a similar KERS setup, 179 horsepower from the electric motors, which are bolted onto the 3.8 litre twin-turbo V8. Where you get all the noise from the P1 though, is those whooshes on the inside. The 918 is the one that took me by surprise though. It has twin electric motors for 279 horsepower, but it's the 4.6 litre naturally aspirated V8. The exhausts are right behind your head and they sound absolutely phenomenal. All 3 of these cars are electric, so how do their E-modes stack up? Well, the LaFerrari unfortunately has no E-mode. You're always driving on the V12. No getting away subtly if that's what you were after. The P1 has a little bit of electric power, 179 horsepower. That's good for 6 to 7 miles of range or so. But the car isn't really geared to using it. It's more a bolt, like the LaFerrari, a bolt-on for extra power when you need it, pulling out of corners. And there we go. Engine stopped. You get a completely changed visual screen. The 918, however, wins this hands down. 279 horsepower on the electric motors, top speed 93 miles an hour, and the car is geared up, set up so that whenever you turn it on, you're immediately in E-mode. It will only kick in the V8 when you need it for power or for recharging, and that is a fantastic setup and really quite fun to get to use as well. So now we're in E-mode, let's put our foot down. Whoa! That's crazy! So yeah, you just witnessed this car driving in E-mode.
In E-mode, with that horsepower, you get 0 to 62 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour. It takes, I think it's 7 seconds flat.
If you're going to be going over 200 miles an hour, you probably want to be doing it quite comfortably. So in the LaFerrari, you have a fixed seat base and backrest, and you actually move the pedal box and the steering wheel to line up with where you need them. That's pretty cool because it means the seat being bolted to the chassis is so low, the roofline of the car is low, and you have a very good feel of how you're driving. The P1, more traditional approach, you have very snug bucket seats. They're very comfortable seats, good after a long time, and you can get them in different sizes for different people. They fit you very snugly. Pretty comfortable place to be. The 918, seats are quite firm. The guys doing a long drive in it found that it got a little bit uncomfortable after a while. The backrest is very upright, which means it's sort of very traditional racer kind of style, which for the car that's perhaps the least race orientated is a little bit unusual, but the steering wheel feel is very nice in that car. As this is the internet, let's talk wings and wheels. The wing competition, I think without a shadow of doubt, is going to go to the McLaren P1. The way that sort of bowl-shaped object rises 30 centimetres out of the rear deck, and then the whole car sits 5 centimetres lower when it goes into race mode. It's amazing to see, it just looks brilliant. The LaFerrari wing slots out sort of neatly at the back and works in combination with flaps down at the rear diffuser to sort of create the same downforce effect. Different approach, a little bit unusual. The 918, more traditional. The wing just comes up cleanly out of the back, sits a little bit higher on the rear deck, makes it look that touch cooler. The wheels, McLaren have some very stylish, elegant, fairly standard multi-spoke lightweight wheels, quite like those. The LaFerrari, come on, could have had a new design. They're just like the wheels off the California or something. 918 wheels though, awesome. I love that design. Massively multi-spoked, green brake calipers, whole electric side of things. Looks awesome. What about the price and exclusivity of these cars? Well, the LaFerrari to start is £1.2 million. That's a lot of money. And for that, you get one of 499 cars. We're hearing rumours that there will be a convertible that comes along the lines too, and there'll also be a LaFerrari XX, I'm sure. But what's amazing is those 499 cars, they were all spoken for before the covers were even off the car for the public to see it. That is quite a phenomenal feat. The McLaren P1, like the LaFerrari, the P1 GTR has already been revealed, the track car with a little bit more power. So with the P1, 375 units, £866,000. So that's 334,000 less than the LaFerrari. That's enough to buy yourself a really well-spec'd Aventador Roadster or another pretty cool car. So that's an interesting one. The P1 sales took a while to kick in, but when the cars were starting to appear on the roads, the order books went flying and they sold out straight away. The 918, now this is an interesting one. The basic 918, £640,000. The Weissach package that strips out everything and makes it lightweight, no radio, no air conditioning, that's £700,000, but still, it is so much cheaper. It's only just over half the price of the LaFerrari. They're going to make 918, and there are still some available, which is interesting. We'll see how long it takes for them all to sell out, and I'm sure they will. There is no question, it's a brilliant car. So you've got 1.2 million for the LaFerrari, just over 850 grand for the P1, and about 650 grand for the 918. It's a pretty tough place. If you're only going to have one, I can see that playing a little factor where you choose to put your money. Let's talk about some trick bonus features then in each of the cars that might make you pick that one over another. Well, the LaFerrari, I think it's all about the fact that the seats are on the chassis and you're moving the pedal box. Completely different sort of setup and feel, and the way that makes it so low and the feel that you get of the car because of that. The P1, without a doubt, it is race mode. It's a transformer, isn't it? You can just change it from an everyday road car to a stupidly low race car. That is just so cool. The 918 though, I think probably takes it because the 918 is actually a convertible. Those roof panels lift off and you can go and store them in the bonnet. That to me makes that the sort of completely different car that you'd actually want to use because you can just take the roof off, especially if you live in the sort of on the continent or somewhere near some mountain roads. I think I'd be all for driving the convertible in that environment. Performance then, this is the big question. LaFerrari 950 horsepower, P1 903 horsepower, 918 887 horsepower, all of these numbers are huge. The only car so far that has posted a time is the Porsche 918 at the Nürburgring. 6 minutes and 57 seconds, that's a record. McLaren say that the P1 has done sub 7 minutes, but they're very coy about what time it actually achieved. Now, I'm partly wondering, is that to do with the electric? There are rumours that the electric power runs out Is that to do with race mode? In race mode, the headlights are too low and therefore it's not road legal. I'm sure LaFerrari would also hit a phenomenal time, but as such, all we know so far with the LaFerrari is that it's the fastest at Fiorano. Now, at VMAX, we've had LaFerrari and we've had P1. LaFerrari a couple of miles an hour quicker, 207. P1 I think only did 203, 204. So that's a relevant factor. LaFerrari has the highest top speed. Now, if you were doing a drag race, it all depends on the length, I think. If you've got the 918, it's all-wheel drive. It will pull off the line faster, fastest 0 to 62 time. So it just shows, again, you can't really say all of these cars are so quick. It's just going to come down to who's driving, what the tyres are like, where you are. Weird circumstances is going to change which one goes fastest. I mean, we had P1 and 918 together, driving, not racing, just driving together. And if the P1 was in front on windy mountain roads, it could pull away slightly. And likewise, when it was behind the 918, it could keep up quite easily. But then I think the 918 is the easiest to drive fast, because to do that with the P1, you're sort of squirming the rear tyres and it's not quite in the level of control you'd want, whereas the 918 is completely happy. So I'm sure we will eventually see some sort of drag race or competitive lap times between the three. But until then, my sort of view on it, I think the P1 is probably the fastest you could drive on a track. LaFerrari would be slightly behind it, 918 slightly behind that, but it's very, very hard to tell. That's just sort of the feel. The 918 feels almost fastest because you have the whopping noise coming through from behind you, and equally the LaFerrari, the V12 is screaming away, whereas the P1 is quite subtle. I look forward to seeing more with the LaFerrari and being able to properly judge that, but like I say, I think the P1 is probably slightly quicker. We'll have to await the tests. What can I say by way of a conclusion? Well, I think it's a pretty tough one. If I was going to buy one, it would be the McLaren P1. I could take it out, race it, have fun with it, and I love the looks of it. If I was looking for investment and which one would do well long term, LaFerrari. There is no question, the Ferrari heritage is second to none. If I wanted to drive the car, take it out, drive it to the supermarket, it would be a 918. That is by far the most usable, E-mode all the way. So the reality is, can I have all three, please? You know, you want your LaFerrari in the garage appreciating, your 918 that you can go drive around in, drive to the track, jump in your P1 in race mode and go around it. So it's sort of like, you want that world where you can have all three. I mean, I'm spectacularly lucky, there is no question about that, to have been able to experience all of these cars and get up close and personal to them. But even still, it's almost impossible to say, you know, which is best. These cars are different, and it's down to each person which one they're going to pick, whether they're going to take the screaming V12 of the LaFerrari, the race mode epic looks and sort of track performance of the P1, or that everyday usability and sort of more sort of subtle hypercar feel of the Porsche 918. I just have absolutely no idea. I'm just lucky that I've been able to experience them and shoot some pretty cool videos. So make sure you do go check all of those out. Search on the Shmee150 channel for whichever car you want to see more of. There is tons out there, launch controls, track laps, onboard rides, and a couple of driving experiences. Absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for watching and hearing my thoughts. Make sure you're subscribed to see all the rest, plenty more videos of all of these cars and many more. But that's it for right now. I'll catch up with you again very soon. Cheers. In the Porsche 918, key in, turn it on. You're immediately in